Hello my friends and welcome to a new video for Infinity Kingdom. This is Pyakia, an official press officer, and this is a new playlist that I made. It's called Immortals Synergy. What does it mean? That means what makes an immortal works fine with another immortal, even though if it is not from the same element. We're going to talk about all the weakening point or weakness point and the strong points for every element. Why I'm going to talk about immortals by element, because it would be a tons of hours talking about all the immortals at once, so I will pick one element each video. So I will start with the fire element, and after that we can pick all the elements together. We will also be granted to talk about the elements starting from the dragons, because the dragons have more power for the immortals, and after that we will talk why we would pick all the other immortals to work for this specific element. So if you decided to build your fire march, for example, first thing to ask about is whether should I use Duke or Ashoka or Embrisu for the backline, or even some players go playing with fire and Gilgamesh as a free-to-play option. Why would all the immortals or other immortals wouldn't work, or why would they work, and etc. So for first thing to talk about in the fire element is the dragon. Why? Because every dragon has a unique skill. We're not going to talk about the other dragons, we are going just only to talk about the fire dragon. For the fire dragon skills, before the dragon talent, it has a default skills causing true damage and inflict burn. So the first skill is only causing damage, true damage, and also for burning and for specific time. The second skill here, we are going just to talk about the default skill. It's going to increase the chance of critical damage. So here chance 90% chance to increase the critical damage of 3 random units by 50%. We're just going to talk about also the original skill, not the talent specifically, because I might be using a talent that you're not using, but we knew that it's going to increase the critical damage of 3 random enemy allied units. And for the talent, we can check from here, not from here, from here, that the talent will improve this skill, increasing the chance and increasing the critical damage by 2%. For the middle talent, it will make the critical damage for one granted magical highest magical attack immortal in your march. For example, if you're using Embrisu, this critical buff will go to Embrisu and it will be immune to dispel. For the third talent, it will stop increasing critical damage, instead increasing the target's attack and the defense for 30 seconds. So the fire dragon will still cause damage with his first skill on all the 3 talents, but in the third talent it will no longer increase the critical damage. So the skill will not increase the critical damage, it will change from the fire dragon behavior. So the last skill in the dragon, in the battle your immortals get 30% crit value and 30% dodge value. In addition, whenever your fire immortals receives a buff, they get 10% damage. So this third skill is an important because it is different from every dragon to another. For example, for the lightning dragon, it has another effect. So we are going just to talk about the fire, so let's stick here. So we know, or we knew, that the third skill and the second skill are specifically working for increasing the chances for critical damage, especially the first talent and the second talent for the fire dragon, and the third skill is giving 30% crit value for the immortals, all the immortals deployed with the fire dragon, and also increasing 30% dodge value. So the power spike coming from the dragon for the immortals, it will be deployed off. Let me here show you how well it works. For example, I'm using Kublai, I'm using Hallard, Helen of Troy, and Gilgamesh with the fire dragon. So all these 4 immortals will use this buff. So it's better to use the dragon with a suitable immortals that will be benefiting more from these buffs. Why? Because you might end up having a bad combination. For example, I'm just using these immortals to level up and gaining EXP. Don't think that I'm using these immortals for real. So here I'm building my fire marsh to have 5 deployed immortals from the same element to gain these 3 buffs. So I will be sure that I will get all of them are fire like element. So here let's only choose by element, and I have all the fire immortals in the game maxed out, all of them. And I have Frederick, Sign Duke, Cyrus, Ashoka, Empress Fu, William, Trajan, Hippolyta, and even the free-to-play immortals. So why would I use some specific immortals rather than choosing any other immortals? For example, if I am going to use for back row, why would I use Ashoka or Sign Duke together? Why would I use that? Or might use Cyrus? It's because the immortal ultimate skill, of course. So every immortal has an ultimate skill, and if this skill might be dealing damage only and might stealing buffs or causing buffs for like the allied units, so he might steal like some stats from the enemy, like YSG from lightning dragon, or sorry, lightning element. But Ashoka here is an immortal that shoots arrow towards the enemy directly ahead, inflicting massive physical damage. So this immortal will only cause damage, and it is powerful. I'm not talking about this immortal about anything wrong, but if we checked Sign Duke, for example, Sign Duke is an immortal only ranged, also like Ashoka. She deals damage, but it has like an additional premium damage when the target she'll deal damage to, receiving critical damage. Let me talk here. Shoots a furious arrow, the power of Phoenix, deal physical damage. The damage rate for the next 6 seconds, an explosion will trigger whenever the enemy receives 1 critical attack, causes physical damage to the whole enemy team. So this skill is dealing massive damage, and it will cause an explosion to the entire enemy team if he receives 1 critical attack. So if I build the front line here, defensive immortals, for example, a defensive immortal like Trajan and another defensive immortal, we can use another defensive immortal from the fire element, and we used a support in this situation. The target that Sign Duke dealt this ultimate skill to will not have many chances to receive critical chance. He might get critical damage from Sign Duke itself, or critical damage from the normal attacks from these immortals, but these immortals are mainly in defense, and some of them are good in defense and some of them are usually bad. So I'm not going to use a support next to Sign Duke. For my own theory, I would use a synergy that will help more Sign Duke and will perform better dealing damage. For example, Empress Fu inflicts magical damage to 1 random enemy unit and has 60% chance of causing equal damage to another nearby random enemy unit up to 3 times. So this massive damage might be split, might be having to 1 random enemy unit and another enemy units up to 3 times with 60% chance. With her exclusive artifact, it will be up to 70% chance. So I will choose skills here, like for example, I might choose some skills to help me use magical damage to all the enemy units. So when Sign Duke deal damage with her ultimate skill, Empress Fu with her other skills will deal damage, and I would use critical rate or critical value on an artifact, so I will make synergy between the back row for the fire immortals. Why I'm using Trajan as a defensive immortal in the front row, I'm just talking about the synergy for my own fire march and what would it be better in other situations. This immortal here blesses all the ally units with the flame empowerment, increasing the critical damage up to by 30%. When a fire immortal deals damage with his ultimate skill, immortal's critical chance will be increased by 10% for 6 seconds, stackable up to 5 times. So this is massive because you are going to bless all your allied units with 30% critical damage. So you are going to affect Empress Wu, you are going to affect Sign Duke, and whether one of them causes his ultimate skill, he will gain 10% critical chance. So just imagine with me Sign Duke getting the Trajan buff and using her ultimate skill, she will gain 10% critical chance. So with her normal attacks or even skills, if you are using skills that deals damage to the entire enemy team, for example Death Breath, you are going to have a 10% additional chance to get critical hit, and it will affect your ultimate skill, and also Empress Wu's ultimate skill will be affected as well. And for the front row, I would use Hippolyta, for example, as a synergy rather than William, even though William is a very strong immortal in the Fire March. Why I would prefer Hippolyta rather than William? Because Hippolyta have more chances dealing more damage with her ultimate skill, because with her exclusive artifact I will deal damage 7 times, fire heavenly 5 times without her our exclusive artifact, but with her exclusive artifact it will be 7 times on random enemy troops, reducing their energy and attack speed by 10%. And this will also have like a synergy with Sign Duke as well. So my main power is not only Sign Duke, but I'm just showing you how all my immortals are gathered together to have a synergy between them, and also the buffs they gained from the dragon, because the dragon will provide some critical damage, or sorry, critical value, and 10% more damage when they cast their ultimate skill. So I had using in the past another formation, this formation without Rajan or Sign Duke. I used William with Thyras. Why would I use a combination like this? Because William here was an immortal that inflicting physical damage on the enemy target ahead and increases the critical rate of all your troops by 20%. And with his exclusive artifact, I had this critical rate is increased to by 15, so it was total of 35%, and also will have my critical damage increased by 35%. So this buff is going to be for all of my immortals that deals damage. Cyrus here was a support, so he was just providing a support with his ultimate skill. I'm going to talk about it very soon. So this would affect Empress Wu. So someone would tell me, why would you choose William over Trajan if you are using Cyrus? Because simply Cyrus' skill is reducing the resilience for 3 random enemy units by 15% for 6 seconds, and gives them a 35 chance of being stunned for 3 seconds when receiving a critical attack. So I would use William because William deal damage with his ultimate skill. Instead, Trajan won't deal damage with his ultimate skill. He just bless our units, and it is a good thing, but I need to deal more damage because I want this 35% chance to be triggered for as much or for as long as possible can work. And also I'm using Hippolyta because Hippolyta deals damage, and the damage it deals will trigger Cyrus stun, and with the 15% less resilience, William, Hippolyta, and Empress Wu can deal massive damage with critical. So the fire synergy is all about critical. Any immortal would increase the critical chances, or critical damage would be a good suitable for my march. But one immortal might be work with other immortals. Like I would perfectly recommend you this setup for immortals, having Cyrus, having William, having Hippolyta, and also Empress Wu. You might change Empress Wu for Sign Duke. This would be perfectly fine. It won't be bad, but the only bad thing that you are going to have 3 immortals for physical damage, and this is kind of bad for a setup like if you are having double defensive immortals in the front line with lightning element, for example, because this is going to be a bad having all of these physical damage from your marsh. So Embrace Wu would provide the magical damage, and magical damage with some physical damage would be perfect. If you want both physical damage and magical damage from the back row, you might also get rid of William and use Trajan instead of him. These are going to be a synergy, because these, like all the immortals that provides critical chances or critical damage buffs, or Cyrus provides some resilience drop in the enemy team. If any immortal that would deal the same thing would be perfect, but I don't think any of the other immortals will deal the same. Here I didn't pick Frederick. Someone would ask me, why wouldn't you pick Frederick over Hippolyta, for example, in the first Fire Marsh with Cyrus, Embrace Wu, William? Because Frederick only deals damage on the enemy targets directly ahead, while Hippolyta will deal damage randomly on the enemy team 7 times. Even though if it wasn't going to be a strong attack, it will have the chance to be critical, and all what we care is the critical damage, not normal attack. Even though physical attack skill damage coming from Frederick is super powerful, 520 percentage. And also the base stats for Frederick, he has a physical attack and like the critical and all of these stuffs are better than Hippolyta, but the only thing that's bad is his energy regen. Hippolyta has lots of energy regen, and this is going to be providing this or her ultimate skill to work multiple times rather than Frederick. Make sure that I'm going to talk about the boosts, because my Hippolyta is boost 26 and the Frederick is boost 0. That's why I'm going to talk about differences between energy regen here and there. I was just assuming that you know the base energy regen for Hippolyta is higher than the base energy regen from Frederick. So the energy synergy from my Fire Marsh is using Hippolyta, Trajan, Cyan Duke, and Embrace Wu, because as I showed you, this immortal will providing critical chances and the critical damage for all of the other 3 immortals, and this immortal will deal damage, and whenever the immortal that dealt damage by Cyan Duke will receive a critical damage from Hippolyta, for example, or from Embrace Wu, he will have an explosion, even though if he got the critical damage from Cyan Duke as well. And Cyan Duke might trigger the critical damage by her ultimate skill by attacking normal attacks using critical value, because she got 10% critical chance from Trajan. As you see, the synergy is using an immortal that not only going to deal just damage, but it will provide some buffs or some stats, or might trigger some ultimate skills for other immortals as well. So if you have an immortal that only deals massive damage and an immortal that deals average damage but provides some blessings or some buffs for the entire enemy team, I would perfectly choose an immortal that deals average damage while providing some chances to trigger other skills like Cyan Duke ultimate skill or Cyrus ultimate skill. And that's all for the Fire Marsh and the critical chances, critical damage from the Fire Marsh. Wait for the next element, guys, and wait for the next guide. Thank you all for watching, and see you soon.